A mother and her two young children are dead. Their killer is still on.
Take a look at this house located on a street with low traffic. It is almost indistinguishable from other houses in the area. It looks like a quiet and peaceful place. However, the locals still cannot forget what happened in this house in 2012.
I have two little ones the same age, and I couldn't even imagine what happened here.
Heather Jackson and her two young children called this quiet home in Sandusky, Ohio, their safe space. But when Heather suddenly stopped answering her phone, alarm bells went off. Her mother and close friends knew something was wrong. A police officer was sent to do a welfare check. He knocked, peered through the windows, and seeing nothing out of the ordinary, left. But Heather's friends weren't convinced. Not hearing from her was completely unlike her, and there were other unsettling signs. Acting on instinct, they kicked in the door, and what they discovered inside was horrifying. They immediately called 911. Today, we're diving into the heartbreaking triple homicide that rocked this small Ohio community. If you're new here, be sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a case. Back in 2012, 23-year-old Heather Jackson was doing her best to rebuild her life. She had two beautiful children, Selena, 3, and Wayne Jr., just 1 year old. After a difficult breakup with her high school sweetheart and husband, Wayne, Heather had moved into a modest home just a mile from the shores of Lake Erie. Life wasn't easy, but she was determined to give her kids the happiest life possible. On the afternoon of September 8th, Heather's best friend, Danielle Sorrell, came over as the two had plans to hang out. But something felt off. Danielle knocked. No one answered. All the doors were locked. She walked around the house but couldn't find any sign of them. Heather was the type to always call or text if something came up. This silence wasn't like her. Danielle reached out to Heather's mother, Jody, who was also deeply worried. The two talked every day, and not hearing from her daughter felt like a red flag. Jody and Danielle began calling other friends, but no one had seen Heather. Then came the most chilling sign yet. Selena's pacifier was lying on the porch. Danielle knew instantly. Heather would never leave home without it if she had the kids. Hours passed with no call. Jody, now panicked, contacted the police once more and requested a full welfare check, a decision that would soon uncover a devastating tragedy.
The officers arrived at the specified address and knocked on the door, but no one answered. Then they went around the house and looked in the windows, but did not notice anything suspicious. There were no signs of forced entry or other signs of foul play. They had no grounds to enter the house without a warrant, so they left.
Around 7:30 p.m., Heather's friends Thomas Hansen and Dan Risner showed up at her house, growing increasingly concerned after hearing she was missing. They knocked on the front door, no response. Something felt wrong. Risner circled to the back porch, forced the door open, and stepped inside. What they found was every friend's worst nightmare. Heather was lying lifeless and unclothed in the bedroom. In shock, they immediately dialed 911.
No. Okay, I walked in the back door because I thought I heard someone come in and there's a body under the mattress.
And there's a what?
A body, a person's body, a deceased person.
Sergeant Eric Graybill, a Sandusky police officer, responded to Heather Jackson's residence and entered the home.
Heather's body was found wedged tightly between the box spring and mattress in her bedroom, a ligature still wrapped around her neck, a clear sign of foul play. The television was still on, eerily playing in the background. But the most chilling part, her children were nowhere to be found. Their bedroom was completely empty. As officers carefully searched the home, one door remained unchecked, the utility closet. When Sergeant Eric Graybill opened it, he found boxes stacked high, partially obscuring what was inside. When officers moved the boxes aside, they made a heartbreaking discovery. The lifeless bodies of Heather's two young children were hidden inside the utility closet. The house was immediately declared a crime scene. Veteran officers on the scene were shaken. Many had never encountered something so horrific. It was hard to fathom how anyone could commit such evil, especially against innocent children. But the devastation only deepened when the forensic reports came in. According to court records, Dr. Diana Scala Barnett, deputy coroner for Lucas County, performed autopsies on all 3 victims. She confirmed that Heather Jackson had died from ligature strangulation. Disturbingly, her autopsy noted abnormal rectal dilation, suggesting that something had been forcibly inserted around the time of death. Dr. Scala Barnett also confirmed that both of Heather's children, Selena and Wayne Jr., were strangled in the same manner. Selena's underwear appeared to have been pulled down and hastily redressed. Her autopsy revealed the same rectal trauma found on Heather. Julie Cox, a forensic scientist with the Bureau of Criminal Investigation, testified that seminal fluid was found in the anal swabs taken from Selena. A stained section of her underwear also tested positive for a sperm cell. With a predator clearly at large, police knew time was critical. Heather's home was located near Firelands Regional Medical Center, so investigators quickly turned to the hospital's security cameras, hoping the footage would help identify the killer.
Looking through the CCTV footage, they saw a car driving up to Heather's house at 10:57 p.m. However, it was hard to see anything because the camera was located far from the house and because of the darkness. They only saw the car's headlights. The car backed into the driveway and stood there for some time. 11 minutes later, at 11:08 p.m., the headlights turned on again and the person behind the wheel drove away.
Meanwhile, Thomas Hansen and Dan Risner, the 2 men who had discovered Heather's body, were brought to the police station for questioning. Investigators decided to speak with them separately, starting with Dan Risner, who had made the 911 call. Dan, a close friend of Heather's, explained that when he heard she was missing, he decided to check on her. He admitted he had to forcefully push the door open to get inside. Since Dan had been at the scene, officers requested a DNA sample. Dan agreed without hesitation. After providing a cheek swab, he was released. Next up was Thomas Hansen. He told investigators that he had spoken to Heather on the phone the night before and was near her house around 11:00 p.m. He said he pulled up in his car but didn't go inside. According to Thomas, they had a short conversation outside her home before he left. That detail helped police identify his vehicle from surveillance footage. But Thomas added something critical. He said he didn't go in because Heather wasn't alone. She was with a man named Josh, someone he recognized. Like Risner, Hansen said he only returned the next day because Heather hadn't been heard from. He also provided a DNA sample before being released. At this point, investigators turned their full attention to the man last seen with Heather, Josh Case. Authorities quickly located him and brought him in for questioning. Josh admitted he had been at Heather's house that night and said they had known each other for years. He claimed the 2 of them watched TV while her children slept, and that he later went to a nearby store to pick up breakfast items for the kids. Josh said he returned for a short time before a friend picked him up around 1-2 a.m. He also admitted that he and Heather had engaged in consensual intimacy that night. Police then headed to the store to review security footage and verify Josh's account.
It turned out that Josh was telling the truth. He entered the store at 11:20 p.m. and did exactly what he said.
Josh Case's alibi checked out. He was indeed seen on surveillance footage at the store, but that didn't rule him out. He was the last known person to be with Heather, and that made him the prime suspect. Josh also submitted a DNA sample for testing. When the lab results came back, investigators were able to eliminate Thomas Hansen and Dan Risner as suspects. Their DNA did not match any found on Heather or the children. Josh's DNA, however, was a match for evidence found on Heather Jackson's body. But crucially, it did not match the DNA recovered from her children. That meant one chilling thing. Someone else had been in the house that night. Josh had already admitted to having an intimate relationship with Heather, which explained the presence of his DNA. But now, investigators were on the hunt for a second man, the true monster who had left his mark on all 3 victims. Detectives quickly ruled out Heather's estranged husband, Wayne. Although they were going through a divorce, he lived out of state and had a solid alibi. So police turned their attention to Heather's cell phone records, hoping they might provide a clue. The records revealed that Heather had been using her phone late into the night. Her final call came in at 3:12 a.m., lasting just 30 seconds. It could be a critical clue. Whoever was on the other end of that line might know what happened next. Just 36 hours after Heather's murder, investigators received another piece of the puzzle, a second surveillance video that could change everything.
While analyzing it, the investigators saw a white car driving up to her house at about 3:00 a.m. It coincided with the time when Heather stopped using her phone. And maybe it wasn't just a coincidence. The officers also saw that this white car drove away about an hour later. Heather, Selena, and Wayne were probably already dead by this time. The footage quality did not allow the police to see the license plates of this car. However, they were able to determine that it was a Cadillac.
Once investigators traced the phone number Heather called just before her death, they finally had a name: Curtis Clinton, 41 years old. He was the person Heather spoke with in that final 30-second call at 3:12 a.m. A background check on Clinton uncovered deeply disturbing details. Just 6 months prior, he had been released from prison after serving 13 years for felonious assault and involuntary manslaughter. He had pleaded guilty to the 1997 killing of 18-year-old Misty Keckler, who was found strangled, naked, and bound, lying face down in a bathtub. The similarities to Heather's case were chilling. Investigators couldn't ignore the possibility that Clinton had returned to his violent past. Even more unsettling, Clinton was known to drive a white Cadillac, a detail that matched witness reports. With that, Curtis Clinton became the prime suspect, and authorities were determined to find him before he could hurt anyone else. Police rushed to his last known address, but Clinton was gone. A few hours later, a patrol unit spotted a white Cadillac parked on a nearby street, but again, Clinton was nowhere in sight. Officers searched the car and discovered a receipt from a gas station, time-stamped around the time of the murders. Investigators headed to that station, hoping the CCTV footage would show them exactly who had been behind the wheel that night.
On the recordings, they saw both Clinton and his white Cadillac. He bought water and beer and behaved calmly. By this time, Heather and her children were already dead.
At first, investigators feared Curtis Clinton might be on the run, but then a tip came in. Someone named Curtis Clinton had been admitted to a local hospital. Officers rushed to the scene, and sure enough, it was their suspect. Clinton was arrested on the spot and taken in for questioning. Despite mounting evidence, Clinton flatly denied having anything to do with the murders of Heather Jackson and her children. He told detectives that he and Heather had been dating for about 5 months and were in a sexual relationship. According to him, Heather was going through a rough time and often turned to him for emotional and financial support. He claimed he didn't know her children well and said the last time he saw Heather was on Thursday, September 6th, when he gave her $328, and they were intimate. But investigators weren't buying it. They pointed out that phone records clearly showed he spoke to Heather at 3:12 a.m. on Saturday, September 8th, just hours before her body was discovered. Caught in the lie, Clinton changed his story, saying he must have gotten the days mixed up and that he actually saw her on Friday night or early Saturday morning. He claimed he didn't stay long, only dropped off the money, had sex with her, and left. "I did my thing and left," he said, unable to recall what time he got home. When pressed further, Clinton suggested that someone else must have come by after he left. He claimed Heather had received a text or call while he was there and seemed annoyed. Still, he insisted, "I didn't do nothing to her, and no, I didn't do nothing to her kids. That's my statement." When told he was the last person to have contact with Heather, Clinton said, "I don't think so. I doubt it. I really doubt it. If something happened, I don't remember it." And once again, he ended with, "I ain't done nothing." The investigation revealed shocking evidence. The DNA found on the bodies of all 3 victims matched Curtis Clinton. As a result, he was arrested and taken to the county jail. While incarcerated, Clinton made a phone call to his mother, which was recorded and later introduced as evidence. During this conversation, he expressed confusion, admitting he wished he had sought help earlier. He said, "I don't know what's wrong with me. It's like I just lose control. I didn't think it would happen again. But now, it's worse than before." His mother responded with concern. "I know. We all have struggles. But we learned how to handle them. We should have pushed you to stick to your medication." Clinton replied, "I thought I was over it. I couldn't believe it would happen again." He then added, "I'll just plead guilty and let them do whatever they want with me." Clinton faced multiple charges, and the investigation uncovered a horrifying attack he committed 6 days prior to the deaths of Heather and her children. He had brutally assaulted a 17-year-old girl, choking her and forcing her into a violent act. After escaping, the victim sought medical attention, and DNA evidence collected from her also pointed to Clinton. As his trial loomed, Clinton's defense team filed a motion for a change of venue, arguing that the intense media coverage had tainted the local community's view of him. The court, however, denied the motion, stating that although the publicity surrounding the case was significant, it did not make it impossible for potential jurors to remain impartial. Clinton knew the gravity of the charges against him, including the possibility of facing the death penalty. Despite this, he tried to shift the outcome of the trial, reflecting on his actions and acknowledging the reality of justice. It's clear that while he had no hesitation in taking the lives of Heather, Selena, and Wayne, the forensic evidence, including DNA found on Selena's body, left no doubt about his involvement. Even though Clinton had a choice to make, he seemed to have finally recognized the severity of his situation. During the sentencing phase of Curtis Clinton's trial, he was given the opportunity to speak before his fate was sealed, but instead of showing remorse, he defiantly lashed out at prosecutor Kevin Baxter, vowing that he would win on appeal and have his case retried. "I don't respect the prosecutor," Clinton declared. "Like I said, I will be back again. I know there's a lot of people upset here, but I'm the one who's going through this." His words sparked jeers and disgust from the 70 people present in the courtroom, many of whom had come to witness justice for the victims. In November 2013, Clinton was sentenced to death for the brutal murders of Heather Jackson and her 2 young children. For each life he took, he received a death sentence. But this was just the beginning of a chilling saga. After learning that lethal injection would be his fate, Clinton exploded in anger at Heather's brother, Nick Fee, who had expressed his wish that Clinton die in prison at the hands of fellow inmates. What followed was chaos. Deputies had to physically restrain Clinton as he was pushed into a chair, while officers had to hold back an enraged Nick Fee as both men hurled profanities at one another in the courtroom, which was packed with relatives and friends of the victims. Nick Fee was seething with anger, shouting, "The only thing you should thank God for is that they saved your life by putting you on death row. I'd love to come over there and stomp your worthless teeth in, but I ain't leaving my family and kids. Be glad you're on death row, where my buddies can't get to you. I begged for them to give you life in prison, begged to save your worthless life so my friends could get you. If I get my way, they still will." The gravity of Clinton's crimes was not lost on the court. Judge Tone accepted the jury's recommendation for the death penalty, noting that the aggravating circumstances of the murders outweighed any mitigating factors. In addition to the death sentence, Clinton was given a life sentence without parole for the brutal murder of 3-year-old Selena, whom he had strangled. He also received an additional 10 years for the assault on a 17-year-old girl, committed just days before the murders of Heather and her children. In September 2018, Curtis Clinton's execution was unexpectedly postponed. The Ohio Supreme Court granted Clinton, 47, a stay of execution, which was originally set for September 15, 2021. The court ruled that the stay would remain in place until all state post-conviction proceedings, including any appeals, were exhausted. As of today, Clinton remains on death row, his sentence still upheld, but his execution delayed indefinitely. Ohio currently has over 100 inmates awaiting execution, yet Governor Mike DeWine has cast doubt on whether any will actually be executed during the final 3 years of his term. The state's last execution took place on July 18, 2018, when Robert Van Hook was executed for the murder of a Cincinnati man he met in a bar. Since then, Ohio has effectively observed an unofficial moratorium on executions. Governor DeWine explained the reasoning behind this halt, saying, "I don't expect executions to take place before I leave office." He cited Ohio law, which only permits lethal injection as the method of execution. However, drug companies have warned the state not to use their products for executions, fearing retaliation that could affect the state's ability to access essential drugs for public health purposes. "I've made it clear to the legislature," DeWine stated, "that unless the law is changed to allow other execution methods, we won't be able to resume executions." Unfortunately, the state legislature has not taken any action, and DeWine sees no indication they will anytime soon. What do you think about this ongoing saga? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. If there's a particular case you're interested in, let us know. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Stay safe, and we'll see you next time.